here. Here, well, at least it says that when Lot is when Lot tells them, and they're virgins, my daughters are virgins, in case I didn't mention that, it says that he's not appealing to their passions, but he's underscoring the seriousness with which he treats the value of hospitality. And so I suppose that, okay, point taken. You know, he does take his hospitality very seriously. Lot is true to his code of honor. Well, that's meaningless. I mean, the Torah tells us at the in Moshe Rabbeinu's valedictory address.
Don't follow your own code of honor. Follow the Torah's code of honor, pal.
So right. So maybe being true to his code of honor got him what he deserved. But it was a sacred duty, according to guests, the right of asylum.
So Lot went out and spoke to his sons-in-law and the betrothed of his daughters, and he said, "Get up and leave this place, for God is about to destroy the city." But he seemed like a jester in the eyes of his sons-in-law. The ArtScroll commentary is, sons-in-law said to him with the typical self-assurance of a sodomite, "Absurd! Organs and cymbals are in the land, i.e., everything in the land is in order and its inhabitants are carefree. You say that the land is to be overturned. Mockery makes serious discussion impossible, because every attempt to prove one's point turned aside with a contemptuous joke. As the sages have observed, one jest repulses 100 rebukes."
Yeah, but the striking thing to me again is that it paints a very enticing picture of Sodom. It's not this your typical den of iniquity where things are.
They're not a bunch of sodomites.
They're not a bunch of like
limp-wristed.
Lavender
mob.
Well, I don't know.
Interior
maybe people
designers.
Right. Well, but I don't know. Maybe people are limp-wristed because they're relaxed. But the thing is that it's not only is this a place where doesn't seem to be social disorder, but they're also the fact that they're carefree on top of that. So they have a well-run society in which people are also free of care. So that's a hell of an accomplishment. I mean, really, it is. Like, that's utopia.
I mean, you could say the same thing about Nazi Germany, right?
No. Well, no. I think that
I mean,
it was well run.
El Duce in Italy made the trains run on time.
Right. No, they made the trains run on time, but were they carefree?
Fancy foot and carefree.
I don't know. Well, could you say the inhabitants, not the Italians, but could you say the inhabitants of Nazi Germany were carefree?
Wow.
Goodness gracious. I don't know. I perhaps you could. But in any case, it's quite an accomplishment. And when he and as far as the jest, well, he wasn't just making an argument. He was telling them what to do. And I do kind of think that in this case they ought to have followed his advice. Mm-hmm. But if the sodomite technique for deferring people's attempts to tell you how to live your life mm-hmm. is to, a little quip rather than insult the integrity of what they're thinking, well, that's preferable. I mean, that's kind of nice. I mean, because the normal way is like, no, is to try to persuade someone.
Right.
No, my impression of how to lead my own life is superior to your impression of how to lead my life. Well, that's an argument that doesn't need to happen. I think when you say that one jest rebukes 100 insults, I think that's good advice. Rather than engaging with the insults or the.
So Lot and his daughters live in a cave, and the older daughter says to the younger daughter, "Our dad is old, there is no man in the land to marry us in the usual manner. Come, let us ply our father with wine and lay with him, that we may give life to offspring through our father." So they plied their father with wine on that night, and the older one came and lay with her father. He was not aware of her lying down, of her getting up. So on the next day the older one said to the younger, "Behold, I lay with my father last night, let us ply him with wine tonight as well. You come lay with him. We may give life to offspring through our father." So they plied their father with wine that night also. The younger one got up and lay with him, and he was not aware of her lying down, of her getting up. Thus Lot's two daughters conceived from their father. And the ArtScroll commentary. Lot's daughters were modest, righteous women, whose actions were nobly motivated. Thinking that the rest of the world had been destroyed in the upheaval of Sodom, they felt that it was their responsibility to save the human race by bearing children, even though the only living male was their own father. Torah does not label their actions as incestuous, as they sincerely thought there was no other way to ensure the propagation of the species. Because their intentions were pure, they merited that among their descendants would be Ruth, blah blah blah. Lot, however, was not comparable to his daughters. His intentions were not at all sincere. Even though he was intoxicated and unaware of what he was doing the first night, he knew in the morning what had happened, but allowed himself to be intoxicated again, knowing full well what the result would be.
Right. And so, also, he knew that other cities had survived because he asked for Zohar to be saved, but he knew that it was specific to these 5 cities. So Lot knew that he didn't need to have sex with his daughters, but allowed it to happen anyway.
How can you be that drunk that you don't even know what you? I thought if you're that drunk, you wouldn't be able to have an erection.
Yeah, I can't speak to that because, like a lot of Ashkenazi Jews, I lack one of the gene for metabolizing ethanol. One of my alleles is a mutation, so I can't get so drunk that I don't remember what happened. I get drunk too quickly, basically. But it's hard to imagine. And in any case, clearly he did retain some recollection of it. If the art scroll is to be believed, because they say he did know the next day what had happened when after he was seduced by his older daughter. He knew that had happened and apparently enjoyed it because he wanted it to happen again the next night with his younger daughter.
So do you think that Lot's daughters were modest, righteous women whose actions were nobly motivated?
Certainly not on the plain reading. I guess if they literally thought they were the last women on earth, but they took to it with great haste. Normally, before you do something like that, I would have to imagine that before you get your father drunk and have sex with him in order to conceive, that's not a same-day decision. Like, that's not, well, this seemed to be the circumstances. You think they would have had to sit on that one a little longer. So I don't buy the explanation. It seems unlikely to me. It just seems...
You want to swap again?
Sure. No, it does not seem like righteous behavior. But the thing, and one of them called her daughter, the son, Moab, from my father. She was bragging about it. She was like, Moab is from my father. The son is from my father. So it's like, kind of, not only did she seduce her, get her father drunk and do reverse cowgirl, because it says she got up.
Right.
That then she wants everyone to know about it. So, no, I don't think they seem especially righteous. But they did. The importance of Ruth being descended from them is that then the Davidic line and the Mashiach himself come from these unions. I think it's Moab, rather than Ami, who gives.
Okay, Nachum Sana says there is no explicit condemnation of the actions of the 2 girls, but their anonymity implies censure.
Okay, sure. But then why did they get the Davidic line? Why specifically them did the Mashiach and David Melech Israel? Why did they come from this seduction of a drunk father by his daughters? I mean, come on, right? I mean, in the Jewish tradition, are there answers to questions like that? And people must have asked them. They're in the Talmud, in the commentaries on the Talmud. I mean, did they address these kinds of things? I mean, I would hope so.
This is Nachum Sana on Lot offering his daughters. This is an age in which a patriarch possessed absolute power over members of his clan, and daughters were held in low esteem. Lot's desperate stratagem reflects his system of values. By the standards of a later age, the nobility of his intentions is dulled by his willingness to surrender his daughters to the fury and lust of the mob.
Dulled is such a kind word. Yes, the nobility of surrendering your 2 virgin daughters to a crazed mob is dulled in this day and age. I think we don't. It's dulled.
Yeah.
To us, the vibrancy doesn't make itself as evident to us. But I guess that's our problem.
Yeah.
Jesus, that's nuts. I mean, all right, it's not nuts, but it's just striking.
Striking.
Lot was a perplexing hero. It does say, on the one hand, he risked his safety, if not his life, to defend the angels. On the other hand,